Oh my God.
All right, I'm ready, Rob.
All right. You sure? All right. Good,
Yeah,
man. You got the beer in full motion over here.
I like
All right, so you could, whenever you want to start, you tell me when, and I guess I'll start.
No, we good. We like in the movies, we're rolling right now. So let's go.
All right, so I'll start with myself. My name is Rob Villanueva. I work at the Players Tribune. I have a background in digital marketing and network engineering, and now I'm in sports marketing and media. I work in the athlete marketing department, and I've been in the game for about 15 years. My brother played in the NBA, Charlie Villanueva, and that's how I got into sports. But that's me.
What about you, Burton?
I don't understand technology at all. I've been in the sports game for 20 plus years. My first ever fucking job, you can believe it, was 1999. I was selling ad pages. This is when print was still relevant for Slam magazine. I was selling $5,000 pages. You remember the old urban brands like Mecca and all those brands? I used to sell to them. Worked for the Knicks, worked for ESPN, worked for XL Sports, which is a representation agency. They represent multiple sports like basketball, baseball, and football. But when I worked there, it was a small agency, just basketball. That's how I met Rob. We represented Charlie V. Now I do a lot of branded content around athletes. I'm the head of sports partnerships for a company called Lineage Digital. We just finished Vince Carter's film. We do a lot of branded content. That's really where the money is made for us. But yeah, I sell, I produce. It's all around sports. It's all around athletes. It's all branding stuff. I'm excited about this topic because when Rob called me, I said, yeah, I'm in, because I think this is interesting, because I started in 2006. I started in a high school All-American game called Elite 24. It doesn't exist anymore, but in 2006, we created that game where it was the first ever game that did not have a sneaker affiliation. Eventually it became an Under Armour game, but it did not have a sneaker affiliation. And we had like freshmen, sophomore, juniors in it. Like, the McDonald's game is all seniors.
Yeah.
But we saw a marketplace for some of the underclassmen to play in it, because back then Lance Stevenson was as good as any senior in the country. So, I think what Overtime's doing is very interesting. So, like, when Rob asked me,
by the way, Brian, you said give a 30-second intro.
Yeah,
it was a 30-second intro. You're going on 3 minutes right now, and the guy hasn't even introduced the topic. Come on,
it's all good.
I know, but he's probably got a really good editor. He's got a really good editor. He'll edit me out.
Yes, I do have a really good editor, like really, really good. He's right in front of you. So I have a one-man show, man. So basically, like one thing, like I know you guys know about what Overtime Elite is trying to go. Full disclosure, I'm a Canadian. Okay, so for me, this whole thing about sport media, it's so foreign for me. Like for us, like sports, like. And it's foreign, and also I'm against Olympics. Okay, just so you know, I'm not a big fan of Olympics. I feel Olympics is kind of a scam, so I just don't like it. I love Olympic athletes. I don't like the Olympics model, so that's one of the things. And so, just full disclosure, just before we start.
Wait, you can't get into that. Yeah, you can't just say that and like. Get into this. Give us a specific reason why you don't like the Olympic model. Is it, and then how does it tie to this high school model?
So I don't like the Olympics model because I think it's supposed to be about like all kind of sports normally. Okay. But now because of the media, everything's about the media in the Olympics. So we actually put too much emphasis on one or two sport, and it takes away from like all the other sport. They're trying to, let's say you're an athlete, you're trying to go to the Olympics, and now like the NBA guys are taking all of the stardoms, everybody of the eyes and the media attention from all the other sports. That they only have those like 5 minutes in their life, and now they can't even like be on the major stage, and they can't get paid. Okay, so it's kind of a weird amateur, like it's kind of like, are they pro or not pro? I don't like that feeling about like a company that making so much rules, and so much money, and not paying the adult actually. And that's kind of where like the overtime like comparison is. But also like overtime is actually doing money on high schoolers. And I'm not sure that's the right way to go in sports, actually, to try to always make money on high schoolers.
I was gonna say, I mean, it all really depends on the intention. I mean, there's with the Olympics, there's obviously there's scandals, there's controversy, and there's a lot of politics that go with it.
Yeah.
And anytime there's more money involved, there's going to be more red tape involved, and more of these type of scandals involved. The Olympics is a whole other world, and it has its flaws. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Olympics, but I don't like the fact that, you know, these athletes are pressured for 4 years, and then this is that one moment they have, you know, to make or break themselves. And the competitive level is always amazing to watch, but there is a lot of pressure, and there could be some things that they can do differently on their end to make the sport better for putting the athlete first. But with that said, though, with what's happening with Overtime Elite, it's a lot different because it plays on having the ability to profit from what's happening now with the name, image, and likeness, and in exchange for their NCAA eligibility, right? I feel like that's a different monster, because now you're taking on the NCAA, and now we're having this kind of pivot shift of like institutions to individuals, right?
Are we though? Are we like taking on like the NCAA?
Wait, what was the question?
Like, are we like taking I'm seeing like people in the States like talking bad about the NCAA. I understand it. Like, I'm not a big NCAA fan, but it seems to me like it's a fly, like something like and they're trying to took it like a bazooka, and I'm not sure like what are they trying to do, like, because they only like taking like 30 athletes. Like they say they're going to be like the elite athletes, but like I'm not sure. It seems to me like it's a LeVar Ball like situation right now. Like, it doesn't seem to me like
Dom,
I'm
I would say this, right? You know, Rob brought this up earlier today when he and I were talking on the phone, but Overtime has credibility. LeVar Ball didn't have any credibility, right? Overtime has credibility in that it's actually a media platform. It has credibility in the sense that there's a huge audience behind it, and it has credibility with the kids. And it has credibility with the kids' parents, and it has credibility with the kids' coaches. LeVar didn't have that credibility. So there's a level of like, this feels more legit. I don't know how I feel about it taking down the NCAA. I won't comment on that so much because it's such a monster. But I think fundamentally, we're all saying the same thing in different ways, whether it's the Olympics or the NCAA. Players and athletes should be compensated. Point blank, right? Like, the NCAA doesn't pay taxes because it's a nonprofit. The Olympics don't pay taxes. So where's all the money going? It's not going to the athletes. And that, I think we all agree, is not what we stand for, right? As people, whether it's a capitalist society, whether it's people that actually like care about the athletes. You know, I know Rob is very close to a lot of athletes. I am too. We obviously all love sport. So these things matter. But I think we're all saying the same thing. In regards to the overtime model, I'm glad they're doing it. Whether or not it takes down the NCAA, I mean, I don't know if you ever take down anything that's that big, right? Like, I mean, if we're being really 1,000, we're being really 1,000 with each other in the background. I'm watching Virginia play Louisville right now. Like,
you're never going to replace them, but it gives the athlete an alternate path to the ultimate goal. Like, these guys are playing basketball for what? To make it to the NBA and play professional basketball.
To make money.
Let me ask you this, Rob. Let me ask you this, like, because you talk about credibility, and I'm all for the overtime, blah blah. All right, cool. So I'm Zion Williamson. Okay, let's take the ultimate one from overtime. I'm Zion Williamson. I have Coach K coming up in my living room, and after that I got Roy Williams, and after Calipari from Kentucky, and then I got Weiner from overtime. Why should I care about overtime?
Simply because who's going to take me to my ultimate goal the quickest? That's
I also think
I mean, like it's like
Coach K.
Yeah, but keep in mind, like some of these coaches, and I've seen it with my own eyes. You know, my brother was ranked number 3 at his high school class. It was in 2003. It was LeBron James, Luol Deng, and Charlie Villanueva. These coaches and these institutes also have their own agenda, and they also have their own incentives on why they would want to keep the player to do 2 years instead of 1 or do 3 years. Obviously, that one and done is some players like a Zion. It's pretty obvious he's a one and done.
Yeah.
But for those that might be in middle ground, like they might want to keep them another year because they want more development. That might not be the agenda that might fit the certain lifestyle or the certain objectives that particular 17-year-old may have at the current time. Everyone has different agendas. Everyone has different goals. So if you tell me the overtime elite is going to get me there quicker and better, and keep in mind though, like, you know, people are neglecting the fact that overtime is also offering a year-round development program that's combining coaching, sports science, performance technology, and an academic program. So it's not just like basketball, here you go. There's also an educational element to this.
I also think like Rob, sorry, Dom, but like to like piggyback off of Rob, I think the main point is like it's another option. It's you asked why would Zion not pick Duke because Coach K's in his living room. He might pick Duke, but it's another option. It's the same as the G League, right? Like the G League Ignite team took a bunch of high school kids on because it's an option for them, right? Like they're getting paid. So they're getting paid above board, right? Like a lot of these guys get the under the table cash money. So that's fine. But now they're getting paid above board. And to Rob's point, it's a development program. Like it's an option. I think my prediction is that overtime's not going to get the top 30 kids when they launch this league. My prediction is maybe they get 10 out of the top 100,
okay.
Right?
Okay. But
it's an option. That's the point.
But let me tell you this. Let me tell you this, Dan. Okay, because I think you're onto something. If they don't get the top athletes, the 30 best athletes, this will not be great for the athletes.
No, that's not true neither. That's not true neither.
Again,
I go back. Overtime has built this powerhouse, and when they launch Overtime Elite, this new tournament, this new league, it was based on popular demand. It was based on, it wasn't like, hey, you know, they're just scratching their head and just figure out something because the pandemic hit or whatever the case may be. It was based on popular demand. They did this before. There was a tournament in Brooklyn. It was a one-day thing. It's a little different, obviously, than an entire league all season long. But I went to it. And the passion, the drive, the emotional connection to the sport of the game at that level, and this new generation, like it's a win-win all around. So like it was really introduced to our world because of the popularity and the demand that was there. So even if they get 1 or 2 or none, it's still going to be a thing.
Okay, let's. Okay, I hear what you're saying. Okay, I'm not saying it's not going to be a thing. Okay, it's going to be great for highlights in Instagram. Okay, I'm talking about the athletes. Okay, I'm talking about the athlete. If I'm a top athlete, okay, let's say I'm not. Forget about LeBron and Kobe and Zion. Okay, those type. Okay, and let's go like just under it. Okay, if I'm not getting I'm not in the top. Okay, and I'm not getting like I'm not like a sure like shot to the NBA. Okay, and then I'm going to this league or this team with has not really like the great caliber of athletes. What is this year doing to me as my draft stock? Actually, am I going after this year? Am I turning pro? Because if the caliber of the players I'm playing against is not great, I might drop a bit in a lot, actually.
But Dom, you have to assume all 30 guys are going to be Division I athletes, right? Like we can make that assumption pretty easily, right?
Yeah.
They're not. It's not a bunch of Division III guys. It's a bunch of Division I guys. So if you went to play at any college, you're playing against guys that are not NBA players as well. So you can make the argument there too. Like, if I'm not going to have NBA talent playing against me, am I going to make it there? That's one. The other thing is this. I mean, there's several points to this. Like, the second point is it's all about their developmental program. Are they going to invest in it or not? We don't know. I don't think it's worth our time to speculate whether they're going to do it or not. And then the third thing is, if you're an NBA player, you're an NBA player. Like, you could go play. That's
going to be clear regardless.
I mean, that's just a fact, right? Like, whether you play Division I or Division II or play in this overtime league, if you can play in the NBA, you can play in the NBA. And it may not be worth it if you're a kid that like needs to play 4 years of college basketball. Yeah, this might not be worth it for you, right?
That's
like,
what I mean. Like, I was talking to my wife about that. Like, how many of, like, let's say next year, how many athletes really should go to overtime and play in that system? Like, is there really like 30 athletes in the States right now? Like, next year from high school?
We don't know the details. Like, can you play in that league for 4 years before you have to declare for the NBA? Like, we don't.
Like 2.
Is it 2 years? Did they say that?
Yeah, it's pretty much true.
It has to be. Right. So it has to be guys that truly believe that in 2 years they're ready for this, right? It has to be those guys. Yeah. It has to be guys that.
I was going to say, you could also have the same argument when guys decide to bypass college and go to overseas. And it's still in a path for them to go to the NBA, but the competition is you can question the competition depending on the league they go to.
What country they go to.
For sure. But it's still, at the end of the day, it's like the ultimate goal is like, you're doing all this to make a path to the NBA. And when you want to get there quickest or when you're ready, like most high school guys right now probably think they can play in the NBA. You know,
but like, you know, they put that like 10 years ago that they wanted to stop the guys from high school to come to the NBA because it didn't kind of work for like most of them though.
Right. That happened to Charlie. When Charlie was in 2003, when he was a top high school prospect, he had all these D1 schools, knocking down his door. He entered his name in the NBA draft, and he went through the process. Got an idea. He never signed with an agent just because he wanted to make sure, like, my backup plan, if this doesn't work out, I can always go back to school. But it didn't pan out for him because he was being projected as a late first round pick. And he was like, you know what? I think I have a chance to be better than a late first round pick. And he went to school for 2 years at UConn, won a championship, and came back and became a lottery pick. He got picked 7th by the Toronto Raptors. So, like, every decision you make in life is always going to have some factors to consider. You just have to, like Burton said earlier, like, as long as this is another option and it's an emerging trend that's happening, right? But it's, as long as you have another option, you can make a better decision based on what you have at your table.
Yeah, and Dom, I think not only is it an option, what it does is it puts pressure on the NCAA. It puts pressure on them to start doing, again, I'll have a very, very hard opinion about this because I think guys should get paid. Like, it puts pressure on the NCAA to do the right thing. I tell Rob and I tell Charlie all the time, if I was around when Charlie was in high school, I would have took every fucking duffel bag from every agent and every coach because he deserves that money. I mean, let's be 1,000. Every athlete that is bringing money and attention to the school, and for them to not be compensated, to me, is a joke. It's a joke, right? Like,
my take on that is that I think athletes should be compensated once they finish their career. So 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. After that, we give you back money because you helped the program. That's one of the things I think they should get some money. The one thing about like the thing that you guys talk about the Europe and overseas, and we saw LaMelo going to Australia and stuff like that. I think the Americans don't see quite how good those leagues are. And actually, LaMelo going to Australia playing against grown men, it's much different than LaMelo playing in the overtime against other high schoolers trying to do highlights. And you see now, like, him coming back to the NBA, he's more prepared. Luka Doncic, he was playing EuroLeague. That's huge. And I think that that's way better than overtime league.
I mean,
will ever be.
Luka's a special case. He started at the age of 14 playing professional basketball.
But that's the point, though. Like,
no,
you
play
right. against like real players.
Yeah.
Dom, you're right. Those are pros. Those are adults. Brandon Jennings told me straight up when he went to Italy. You know, Brandon was a skinny 18-year-old kid. And what he told me when he was in Italy was like, dude's 32, but he's hand checking the fuck out of me and like bodying me and all that stuff. And it got him ready for like, I got to get stronger. I got to get bigger. And you're right. There's a physical preparation and a professional preparation when you play in those pro leagues. But again, the same thing remains. It's another option. It's another opportunity, right? Like, and I think, again, because they are not compensating these kids, I would love for them to have more opportunity. You're not wrong, Tom. Like, some of those leagues are really good, really good.
And keep in mind, this is a basketball league for 16 or 18-year-olds.
Right.
You can still play a year or two here and go overseas if that's what you want to do, and then make it to the NBA. If you feel like if you're an NBA player, you're an NBA player. You could develop your skills. And
your physical strength and all that stuff. Yeah, for sure.
I'm just
it's risky. It's risky. Don't get me wrong. It's risky. But
I'm just worried about I'm just worried about those guys that like don't have the right like people around them and say, hey, I'm gonna go like make that kind of quick buck in the overtime. Then can go to college, and those guys at 18 they think they're gonna turn pro, go to the draft, don't get drafted. Go to the G League, don't get drafted, then try to go to Europe. You're not going to go to
But Dom, that's going to happen. That's going to happen everywhere.
Yeah, like, and how about?
Yeah, I know, Burton. But like one thing,
how about if they say, if an athlete decides not to pursue basketball professionally, over time we'll cover tuition up to $100,000. Does that make you more like?
Yeah, but my career. Let's say I'm talking about my career and other people's career, okay, as a basketball player. Sometime when you're 18, you're just not good enough, okay? And you need those 3 years after that, like of college, and 4 years. And after that, you become a star. And then, but those guys at 18, it's basically from 16 to 18, I'm in the overtime league, okay? And if I don't make it at 18, the jump to the pro and NBA Europe, seriously, it's pretty much the same. Like, you're not going to get to FC Barcelona at 18 if you're not good. Okay, great. Okay. Yeah. So basically, at 18, you have to be a big time pro, or you're going to be a scrum. You're not going to be able to develop as a basketball player from 18 to 22 in a good program. So that's what I'm scared of for those kids, because I think most of them actually will benefit at least 2 or 3 years of college to be good. And now they're not going to be good enough for the NBA, and they're not going to be good enough for Europe. So that's what I'm thinking.
And not just that. You make a good point. You also, like, you know, if you play 2 or 3 years at Illinois and don't make the NCAA, you might still get a European job just based on the rep, right? Like, I was a 3-year starter at Illinois. I get it. You're making a good point. Like, overtime has the credibility with the kids, but they don't have the credibility with the professional leagues or the teams. Or no, for sure. You make a good point, but it still stands that I'm happy that there's another option. I'm happy that kids are going to get an opportunity to get paid. Hopefully, overtime does the right thing and has a real program so kids can get better and stronger and all that stuff. But you're right. Like, there's going to be plenty of cases where the kid makes the wrong decision, joins overtime, and then he's fucked 3 years from now.
Honestly,
that will happen.
I honestly think this is deeper, and I don't want to dive in too much into politics, but we're now living in an era with everything that's been happening with the Black Lives Matters movement. Like, we're living in an era of the empowered college athlete. The empowered college athlete has arrived, and coaches, team, school, like, they need to get on board. Like, this advocacy around name, image, and likeness rights, like that. This plays a huge role in all this, because there and even to get even to deeper, like the fact that some of these guys have the opportunity to also gain equity. There's opportunities to sign direct sponsorship with sneaker companies. There's full.
That's a good point, Rob.
I forget. There's something that has to do with NFTs too, which is pretty interesting that I found. All these benefits. and
Good
having
point, Rob.
those guaranteed salary, it
Yeah.
changes things, you know. And to me, that it's more of an empowerment. It may not apply to all athletes, to all college
Right.
students, but you have a choice now, and you can make that decision based.
There's a
what your end
kid.
goal is.
Yeah, there's a kid. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't have all the details. There was a kid who like had this great social following. He's like 5'8", and he's a hell of a dribbler and player, but he's not good enough to play in the NBA or big enough to play in the NBA. That's a kid that can make six figures, both with his salary and with off-court endorsement deals by joining overtime, right? Like, again, it's the opportunity. Like giving athletes and kids an opportunity matters, right? And so that's what the NCAA is not doing for these kids. So that's why I support it. Dom, you're not wrong. There's going to be plenty of cases where the kid makes the wrong decision. He would have been better off playing at a college program, better off in structure, better off with really, really great coaches and support staff. And yeah, for sure. I'm not disagreeing with you that that's not going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. But again, giving kids an opportunity, putting pressure on the NCAA to finally do the right thing, those things matter. And I think I
don't know the stats to this, but I'm curious what how many McDonald's All-Americans never made it to the NBA? What percentage would you say?
I bet you it's like 20%, something like that. Like a lot of them do make it. A lot of the kids
I think it's
right?
higher than that. I think it's higher than that.
Yeah, I think it's higher than that too. I remember like what's 50. His name from Villanova? He was a man-child. Jason Frazier. Remember him?
Yeah, Long Island. He's from Long Island.
He was a New York product. I mean, like, he was a beast. He was a guy that
he had bad knees.
And injuries are something that like we're not even putting into all this. Like anything can happen when you're playing in that college stage, right? So it's like to be able to have an opportunity where like, all right, I can bank off this right now, and maybe I need it right now, and maybe there's it's I don't know. It's just I just think like if you're giving the athlete the choice to make money right now or make money later and, you know, have a security blanket, it's key, and it can be life-changing to a lot of these guys. It's just going up or nothing.
I hear what you're saying, like, but those athletes are like 16, 17. For me, like, it's just not like, I just feel like
your thing is more about go to college because you're going to develop best in college, right?
Yes, Europe could be fine too. Like if I had to choose, like let's say I'm a like in between, like in finishing high school right now, I would probably try to go Europe, like just like LaMelo did with Australia. I think that's a great situation because you're getting the kind of a great coaching. You're going to play against great players, and you're going to develop too. So I think that's a great situation right now.
So does academic play a role into this? Like, does the college education matter?
For me, not for the top athletes, not that much, but like it does matter though to be around a good coach though. Like I think being around Coach K mattered for me, like big time. If my kid was right there and we had Coach K say, hey, why don't you come and play 1 year for us before NBA? I would say let's go with Coach K. He has something like, so for me, coaching is really important.
It would actually be a crazy game changer when you have a Coach K type of caliber, like a Jim Calhoun. All of a sudden, he's coaching now in overtime.
Okay,
but here's guys, I have a different opinion about these Hall of Fame coaches. My opinion is that doesn't mean that they're great X's and O coaches. That doesn't mean that they're great player development coaches. What it means is that they're great CEOs.
And they know how to manage and they're great recruiters.
They're great recruiters and they're great CEOs. They run a program, right? Like the reality is, like, oftentimes, and I'd love Charlie's opinion on this at some point, or any NBA player's opinion about this. Like, who helps you the most? It's usually the player development guy that's working on moves with you, not like some coach that is managing an entire team, right? So they're great motivators. They know how to give the great pregame speeches, the in-huddle speeches. They're great CEOs. Like, they run an entire it's a company. Duke basketball is a Fortune 100 company. So
I think guys like Coach K can actually, like, we could talk to athletes, actually Duke's athletes, but I think a guy like Coach K, like, and some of the guys that play in USA basketball could attest to that. They have something a little bit more than
They
that.
do.
That's
and
my
a lot of guys tell me that Coach K and guys like Coach K teach them how to be a man.
Yeah.
More than anything
That's
else,
what I mean.
Right.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
That's like human. That's human development. That's not necessarily basketball development, right? And it's important. I'm not arguing that it's not important. It's definitely important. What I'm saying is to discount another coach because he's not Coach K. That's not how I view it. Like, of course, overtime should get the best coaches in the world that they can. Will they? Who knows, right? Like, but the reality is some of the best coaches in the world are legitimately high school coaches. Like, I know that's like a hard thing to like wrap your mind around.
No, that's true.
Public high school coaches, right? Like, but they're great coaches. So, it's not as simple as John Calipari is the fifth best coach in the world because his team is ranked fifth in the country. Like, I don't believe that at all, to be honest with you. So I think if they get the right coaches, again, too hard for the three of us to speculate on a Saturday afternoon what overtime is going to do, right? Like, it just is. Yeah. But again, I still support it because I want kids to get paid.
I support it too. I like where this is going. I'm trying to find the tweet that I sent to you. I think, here it goes. There is a fundamental importance in taking a position in favor of individual freedom. And I mentioned earlier, the power of choice, the power of having this option. There's empowerment to that, and to be able to choose your own course of action. Come on. Like,
who wrote that? Who wrote that?
That's Rob. That's Rob stuff.
He put me on a tweet, and I was like, wait, hold on, you're against this? How are you against this, bro?
Rob, because I'm Canadian. Okay, I don't view that's the truth though. I just don't view sports the same way. Like, I was not raised that way. Okay, so I went to college. Like, I was like a physical therapist, like major. Like, there was like a real study for me. Like, college was like real time, like college. So, and I was doing both. My wife did the same thing. She's like in med school doing the same thing as like you saw like Laurent Duvernay-Tardy in Kansas City, the guy like that went like the med doctor like in Kansas City with the chief. That's our lifestyle over here. Like, we do like lawyers. Like, I have friends that did like lawyers like while doing like basketball or football. That's what we do over here. So for me, like, it's so like we don't go like in sociology and stuff like that. Like, that's not how we build. Like, when we go, we're real student athlete, like big time. So that's one of the things though. And I'm just so worried. I'm not worried about Zion Williamson. Like, I know those guys are gonna be like awesome. I'm worried about that guy that's gonna be like 15 to 30. I think those guys are at the wrong place. And that's just my feeling. But like you said, like Burton, we'll see. I'm just there's something about like, for me, there's something about like a media company like trying to
capitalize
Oh, and they are. Let's be 100. They're doing this for money. Let's be 100.
Yeah, it's business, but it's all business. The same reason that NCAA is doing. You think? I mean, as much. I'm not knocking the college life and the student athlete. Like, more power to them. Like, I wasn't a student athlete. I was an athlete, not a student. But like, I got my education elsewhere. I got my education online. I got my education by reading books. I was self-taught. Everything that I know today was self-taught and learned by my own experiences. So like, it all depends the path that you're really trying to get out of life. If basketball is where you want to get to, and this is like your ultimate goal, and this is my path to succeed in life, and the NBA is there, like, and overtime creates an opportunity where you can get there in 1 year or 2 years, and you're protected. And why not? Like,
you got a little money in your pocket,
and you got to explore that.
Money in your pocket. Yeah, I'm with that too.
One last thing though. You don't have to worry about it.
You don't have to worry about report cards and class.
One last thing I want to ask you guys about that, and after that we're gonna finish. I think my Zoom because we're in Zoom.
We got like 4 minutes. I just got the time.
Yeah, because of Burton, and we actually got Riverside. Man. So was so like. How do you feel, you guys, about like those high schoolers that like overtime saying right now in the New York Times article that they're gonna give you 100,000 K, okay? But you're probably gonna have to move your family to one or the other city. How do you guys feel about that? Like there's 2 cities that you have to move your whole family to, like, so you can actually participate in that. So that 100.
So that you have to bring your parent. You have to bring your parents with you because you're underage. Is that why?
Kind of. So how do you feel about that 100K now?
I don't know all the details, to be quite honest. So
Yeah.
I don't want to speak on something that I don't know all the details on. I mean, 100K is obviously not enough to move your whole family and expect them to get a job wherever they're at. Like that's kind of crazy. So it's hard for me to speak on that just because I don't know all the details. But the way they made it seem like it was a minimum of 100K salary. So if it's a minimum 100K, there's somebody that's valued at 350. That might, you might be talking now. You can take care of a family with 350.
Yeah, it's also like to Rob's point. I don't want to comment too much. Details, right? Like if it's not a mandate, like when you go to IMG Academy, you don't have to be your family, right? Like I would think it's something similar to that, but like let's see how that plays out. And in some cases, 100K might be more than the family's making, and in some cases, to Rob's point, it's not enough sometimes. So again, I think options.
I think IMG is a great point though. Like if they try. It's just I don't see like when I saw the article, I didn't see IMG like, and you're the second one who tell me about IMG. I just didn't see the IMG like model like taking care of the athlete on a campus.
Right.
I didn't see that though. Like I saw like a media company doing highlights and cool stuff with the kids and giving them like equity stake and stuff like that. I see like the cool perks. I didn't see the IMG stuff though.
Keep in mind, like the city hasn't been announced. So supposedly the league will feature up to 30 players and they're all living, learning, training, and playing in a single city. But the city hasn't been announced. You tell one of these kids you're going to Miami or New York or LA, the whole family is going to figure out a way to get there too, depending on what the situation is, because it might be a better city than when they're living at. So a lot of moving parts here.
I think a lot of the details there's, I mean, my understanding through some industry folks is that they're still trying to figure out the details. Yeah, like it isn't all ironed out yet. I think the money and the city and the mandates, whether you got to bring your family or not, all of those things will factor into which kids will do it and which won't. But again, freedom.
Yeah, we got to
let's wrap it up, guys. Let's wrap it up before Zoom actually wrap it up.
Overtime is redefining the game, man, and I love the direction that is happening. So keep it up, guys, or the whole squad over there. Shout out my man Larry in the building, the Dominican. But I love what they're doing, and keep it up, man.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Burton. Really nice,
this was fun, man. This was fun. Sorry I fucked up the technology. This was really fun, man.